All right, you legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. This weekend we're having a triathlon, the Ironman in the Woodlands area. And so we've gotten a lot of people coming from all over the world to participate in it. This guy brought his bike in. He's from Mexico. He was Alberto Tanas. And it has the full Dura Ace R9 150 series on it. And so I decided to share with you. It's a nice setup. I've assembled it and I've got Di2 working and everything is nice and slick. So let's go ahead and show you the bike. This is the machine. It is a Cervelo, the latest Cervelo P5. Let me come closer. The model is right here. The P series, P5. And he's all ready for the event. It's coming on Saturday. Today is Friday morning. And when he came in, the bike was in pieces, of course, in a suitcase. They had taken it apart. He flew in from Mexico. And Di2 was not working. He couldn't really figure out. I guess he hadn't been using it much. He's running the NV wheels on here. There is a tubeless setup with Continentals on there. It's a nice setup. He didn't need too much sealant in this one. They're improving the technology to the point where this is a nicer setup than the everyday tubeless. I got it all figured out for him. Di2 had connectivity issues. I got that sorted. He couldn't get this cog. I think he's running an 11. He couldn't get it to get on there. And so the basic limit adjustment screw, I don't know who had adjusted stuff, but he really didn't check everything. But what I really want to share with you, besides the beauty of this bike, this is a speed machine, is he's using these, what they call them, the switch shifters. That's how Shimano calls them. They're on the end of the tri-bars. I have different versions of them, different styles. So this is the one he's using. They have the other ones that have buttons on top. This one you just kind of push to get a shift. This will shift the rear cog in smaller gears. That one. This will make it go to larger, meaning larger ratios. So I'm going to show you briefly. So what was happening was, no matter how many times you shift this, you can hear that. Ideally, you want to be spinning this when you shift. It just works better. So you can see right there, it stopped on that, and it's on there. It was not getting on his largest ratio. And so those are the kind of things I check for. So I want to make sure it's race ready. The brakes were rubbing as usual, discs. I don't know who did the adjustment, but got that sorted out. It was just kind of humming on him. And so he's real happy. He was worried about the Di2. So what I did basically, I believe that it just wasn't charged. So I had him bring the unit late last night. That's the charger. He dropped off the bike without the charger because he assumed that the other shop that took it apart had done it. I don't believe they got around to it, So you can see his setup. That's his hydration system here. That's what he's using. So he's not using a regular bottle. You could put an Aero bottle on this bike. It would work really well. So you can see I added some anti-seize, copper colored anti-seize on there. Because he's not going to be using that much. So I figured it's one of those things you set and forget. I don't know who was assembling and disassembling, but they nicked the bike out right here. So I'm going to do an old trick where we use... I keep it right here. I use that a lot. We use the permanent marker right there, especially since it's black. And we just fill that in. So somehow I got nicked on both sides. So it had to do with disassembly or assembly. So it's a new bike. He hasn't used it much. And he's all excited about this event. It's an Ironman qualifier. I don't know what level he's participating at. So I got rid of that nick. that was showing the base paint. You can see, you can't tell. You got to be right up on it to see what I filled. And the camera is actually with the HD here, high definition. That's why you can see that in real life. You can barely tell what I've done down here. You can't really see. It kind of looks like that. Okay. Just a nice machine. I mean, it's just, he's running the Keel blade carbon pedals on there. I wanted to give you a full view of the bike. It's just nice and slick. I'm going to go around it and try to back away so you can kind of get a nice perspective. It's a nice machine. So he has the ability to carry extra bottles back here in addition to his hydration system in the front. This is really effective when you're in the TT position, so you can kind of get your fluids without changing the aero position. He mounts his Garmin right on top here. This is nice and slick. I ended up replacing one of these for him because for some reason, I don't know if it happened during the transports. It's this one. The cap was missing. It would still work, but he had already noticed that, so he had ordered it, and it was delivered last night. So he came by and dropped it off. So I went ahead and switched it out. I only changed one. You know, the one on the right was the one he was having, but this would have still worked. You could just push on the whole body, but it's just not as smooth without that cap. The cap is better, because you can rest your finger on there, your thumb, or whatever you choose to use. It's a lot easier. So I'm going to put this camera somewhere and kind of show you how this thing actually shifts. All right, you legends. I wanted to just show you how nice and slick this is. Those of you who are not familiar with Di2, nice and slick this thing works. So on his setup, now if you have a road, if you have drop bars, the buttons will be in a different spot, and you can also use the levers on drop bars. But on this TT switch that they call it, a switch shifter, this button on the right side makes the gears increase in ratio. So we're already on the 11. So to get a smaller ratio when you're on the bars like this, you would use your left hand on this one, and just each time you push, it goes down one. If you want to go down more, you just hold it. I mean, it just moves. If you want to go down a lot, you just hold it to the right. See that shifting? But if you're going one at a time, each push, it's instant. So what was happening is, when I would shift all the way down here, it wouldn't get in the 11 because the limit adjustment screw on the derailleur was not set correctly. Now it gets there with no problems. Now, as far as the way he's set up for the big chainring, this is just the rear derailleur. You work from here. To go on the big chainring, there's a button that's been installed where the brake is, right here. There's a button here, and there's a button there. Those are your shifters. So for the big chainring, you would push the button on the left there, immediately you can hit it. And then to go on the small chainring, on the right side, it's a small chainring. But on a drop bar, I would set it up consistently to where I'm using the left side to work big, big and small, and you probably could wire. You can put these buttons anywhere you want, it depends. It's almost like putting a sprinter's button on the drop bar. You wire them the way you choose. But on his bike, this button goes to the small, this one goes to the big chainring. And in a time trial, for the most part, most of the time you're going to be on the big chainring, depending on the course. And if things change, you go small. So it's got trimming also. So when you go one, let me go down. When you go one to the small chainring, it's also set up to where in the junction box, you can set the adjustments on Di2 to where you don't allow cross chaining. So depending on what gear you're in, when you shift to the big chainring, it will adjust in the back automatically for you. It might go down a couple of cogs if you're all the way up. So it takes care of that cross-chaining problem automatically. You can choose to make it full manual. You can do semi-auto or full automatic. Full automatic means it's making most of the decisions for you. Most riders do probably the middle ground where they do semi-auto. So where it's not making too many decisions for you. But a lot of riders will do full manual to where they can cross-chain if they choose to. You have that option also. And it's just not, when it's adjusted correctly, it is sweet. The sound it makes when you're shifting from big to small kind of lets everybody who's in the know that you're shifting. You can hear it. And what's cool is when you go on the big chainring, if you need to trim, you push it again, the cage moves just enough to trim for you. Because this mode that he has it set in, it's not automatically trimming for you. The full auto will trim for you. So what I did when I shifted on the big chainring here, it was in that cog. When you go down to the little one, what it did is in the back, it's kind of cool. This is what I was explaining. I'm going to do it one more time so you can see. You shifted the big chainring. What did it do? I was on the little chainring here. It was in like, let's see, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I was on, let's say, the 39.15. 39.15, small chainring, 15 in the back. In that ratio, when I shifted to the big chainring here, it automatically moved up to 2 cogs lower to keep me in the same range. It's just something we do all the time manually. I don't really think about it, but this is doing it for you. So you go from the 39.14, for example, and you shift to the big chainring, it will go like 15, 16, maybe even 17, to where you're not lugging the gear. I hope you know what I mean. Just an example of some of the tech that's in there. It's very involved. They don't ship manuals with it. You got to go online, download the manuals if you really want to get into it. But there's a lot more to Di2 than just, it's electronic shifting. It has a lot of tech in there. So if you're interested in that, check it out, read up before you decide what you want to get. He's running full Dura on here, which is the top of the line stuff, but Ultegra has the similar features in there. The Dura is, of course, more cargo and, you're paying for lighter stuff and, crisper shifting in my opinion. But Ultegra is a good middle ground. It's always been in the Dura line. So, to that effect, let nothing stop you from getting your cage in.